Welcome, everybody. This is the Sunday Truth Talk. I'm talking to you in my capacity as an energy therapist, as an energy healer, and maybe today also a bit as a philosopher and future researcher. I'm going to kidnap your attention into something that I would call forecasting. So we're going to talk about the art of forecasting, and I call this quantum future. So this might be boring, sounds technical, but in my capacity here as this living true self, I want to illuminate some of these aspects that are really happening here in our world, in our society. So we all talk about this shift in paradigm. We talk about a revolutionary, where we're standing at the cusp of big changes and so forth. And I wanted to really dive into this real quick with you here in the beginning of the Truth Talk and see what are these changes and what do we need to pay attention to and how do we relate to that? How does that actually, work with us? Is there something there that we can contribute? Is this a one-way street or is this a two-way street? And the big message that I have for you here today is that it is a two-way street and that you are a massive part, that you play a massive part in our future right now, especially you guys. So thank you for spending your Sunday morning here with me, for giving me this attention, right? Who am I to talk about all these things? There was a major shift that happened in me roughly 15 years ago, and that was when I realized that it isn't so much the things that come in from the outside that need to be harnessed or that need to be mastered. Even though we all start this spiritual journey here, maybe with the idea that it is something to do, it is, another step in our evolution. It is, to be, first we've been told how to be a good person, and then we are told how to be a good citizen, and then we are told how to be a good a worker, how to be a good consumer, and now we're being told how to be a good spiritual person. And I've seen these patterns replicate here into spirituality. And in the beginning, I was one of them. I wanted to be a good meditator. I struggled with learning how to meditate for over 20 years, guys. I want you to know this, because the way I approached it was that it had to be something to harness, something to master, something that I need to succeed in, something that I need to be good at. This whole mindset of needing to succeed, needing to be better, needing to improve. This is the part here that I want you to see, is what makes us unhappy. And why can I say this in such a simple way? Because I am seeing things now that I couldn't see then. And that was when I did the research here this last 6 weeks. I spent a lot of time in webinars and seminars learning about social media trends, market trends, industry trends, and so forth. And I can tell you that what is coming here in the future is extremely concerning. Not because there are some aspects of conspiracy theory or dark forces taking over. No, because what is happening is that marketing and industry is now hijacking these most intimate and deep aspects of our lives, the big questions such as who am I, what did I come here for, what is my purpose, and what brings fulfillment. So when we talk about technology, we're literally looking at a future that will try to simulate our experience of reality, our experience of identity, our experience of authenticity. The buzzwords right now in marketing, guys, are authenticity, reality, quantum, self, consciousness, and energy. Do you get where I'm going with this? Your attention is now being directed at these big questions in life that even with all the technology that we are currently developing, and I'll say a little bit about this here in a few minutes, where this is going, what our quantum future is going to look like. But I want you to know that this is all part of the industry responding to a need that is coming in through you guys. So what are you guys bringing in? You guys are bringing in the search, the seeking for more meaning, the search for more connection, the search for more purpose, and the search for more fulfillment. And this is extremely sensitive, because the spiritual understanding of all this is this, that we don't need to search. We already have this within ourselves. But what in us actually is it? Yes, Sri, you're absolutely right. That helps us to navigate through this complexity of the world. The problems that we are faced with here in the future are so complex, not just through the sheer amount of people and the say the earth changes, the unpredictable things, or politics, or something like this. The problems of the future are more complex because something is happening within us. We are discovering that we are more complex. We are not just like supercomputers. Consciousness is not a matter of computation. But, and this is the part that is concerning, that we need to pay attention to, the way we are being told how to navigate through this is through a paradigm that still promotes the computation of things. In other words, that suggests to us that we need tools in order to navigate through this complexity. And if you know me for a while, I've been talking about discernment of truth for many, many years, because this is really what all this awakening and all this spirituality and all this is about. Recognizing that there is something like a navigator that we call consciousness in us that needs to be discovered. It doesn't need to be sought, and it doesn't need to be harnessed. It just needs to be discovered. And if I look at these technological developments that are coming in here, I can tell you that your awareness, your attention, your reality, your identity, your perception is being hijacked. And how is that happening? It is happening through suggesting to you that your reality, how you experience your life, how you experience your body, how you experience your relationships, how you experience your freedom, that's another buzzword, is shitty. And then you need to go out there and get things, or seek things, or have things that allow you to make this better. And why is this concerning to me? Because it is practically the anti-movement to spirituality, to awakening. It is the comfort zone that is being promoted. It is the dopamine hit, the instant gratification, the ego reality that is being promoted here through our world, that is coming in here in a never before observed pace. What we will see here as technological developments in the next 5 years, guys, is going to blow your mind. And it's already all there. It's already, being sort of calculated. There are a few technological things that are still being developed, but it's already planned. It's very clear where this is going to go. Augmented reality, virtual reality, creating this interface between you and, technology, hijacking your inner, or harvesting almost, your inner capability to produce ideas, to produce context, the way you see things, your perception and your identity are being harvested into this computation sort of world, okay, that we are being presented with. And the way this is called is quantum, okay? And I want to just for those of you who are not very sort of versed in with technology and so forth, and the theory behind this. I want to just really quick explain why the word quantum is going to be such a big buzzword in the future, because, of course, on a technological level, we're moving towards quantum computers, which is basically this holographic connection between all the computers in the world, okay, and into a sort of a larger quantum computer that then sort of takes over most of the tasks here that we need to fulfill in our daily lives. So it's supposed to simulate our thinking, basically. So we are being told that all the thinking and all the trying to solve problems and even philosophizing and all that is something that needs to be improved. All right, it's not good. So you need to understand that whatever it is, and don't get me wrong here, I'm a proponent of technology when it can help us to increase our awareness. But when it begins to work against our awareness, then I have to clearly say, as a teacher, as a coach, as a mother, as a person, as a woman, all right, that we are being blindsided here. And the way this is happening, guys, is by using words, using things such as a certain collective understanding of these words that you perceive as improvements, that you perceive perhaps even as spiritual, all right, by hijacking these words into making you believe that you need something else or something from the outside, obviously products, all right, in order to get there. So this is basically the subject that I wanted to introduce to you here, and the critical thinking that must come with this, and how we can counteract this. And I would love for you guys to share some of your concerns, to formulate questions if you have any, and to go into discussion with me about this. I currently have issues with Facebook here. Guys, if you are watching me on Facebook, I cannot see your commentary. So please be patient with me here. So right now, I'm mostly paying attention to the Instagram comments. All right, so what does this mean? Identity, authenticity. Authenticity means that you have felt into who you want to be, and that you understand that what your experience is, that this is yours, that this is something that you claim, that this is something that you do no matter what somebody else tells you or what your own conditioning tells you. So the problem with the authenticity, or the thing that works against it, is identity. And identity is something that comes in through our early conditioning, all right? This is a psychological, sociological subject, okay? So we identify with what we know best and what we have been told. And the big shift here, the true shift that is happening for us, is that we are beginning to awaken to something like our true identity, our true self-identity. And this is not quite exactly the same as authenticity, but authenticity is the pathway to your true identity, namely, recognizing that you have to claim the things that are true to you. You have to go out there and live your life and find what that is, not as in seeking, but as in experiencing and doing it, and recognizing, oh, when I do this, this feels good to me, this makes me feel like I'm growing, this makes me feel I'm expanding. And the things that you come or that you learn that are not good for you, to slowly weed them out. That is a big part of our authenticity, all right? And so when we are trying to find out what our true self is, our true identity, okay, we're up against this, what we were told to be. Then we're up against our ego's notion that better is more, or that if we are complying with something that is familiar to us, that everybody else does, sort of this herd instinct that we all have, then we are, we can succeed more, we can survive better. The ego's identity is based on what makes you survive, what makes you succeed better. But it is not really something that can lead you to fulfillment or to purpose. And so this whole awakening and spiritual movement here, not religious, but spiritual in the sense of discovering or seeking, this true identity that we are, and the spiritual soul self that we are, and no longer just seeing ourselves as a body with a soul, but seeing ourselves as a soul with a body. That is the counter movement to this technological future that we are being dictated to go. All right, so this is something that is extremely dangerous to, say, the powers to be, because if you actually discover your true identity, if you begin to live an authentic life, if you begin to embody your own true self, you know that you don't need anything on the outside other than, obviously the fundamentals of survival, such as food and shelter and basic connection and safety. But if you are really awakening to this awareness in you, all right, and if this awareness then leads you to invoking this part in you, this consciousness part in you, all right, then you become a single unit. You no longer are a part of this, sort of predisposed, malleable and controllable mass of people on this planet. And here is where quantum, in its original meaning, actually brings in a whole new dimension. The thing is that we are about to discover here right now, guys, is that each and every one of us, one soul at a time, awakening to our own consciousness and walking this path of an authentic true self, that we are actually all connected to all the people who are walking on the same path and who have walked this path before us. And this is another danger. Because if we, true danger to the powers to be, if we discover this, that we actually have the power to not only claim our own authentic true self, but also to embody it and opt out of whatever this augmented or virtual reality that is being presented to us here, well, then what? Then these, whatever you see as the powers to be, are no longer in power, because if we would all discover that we have this power within and we don't need anything from the outside, we don't need to externalize our identity to the outside, what happens then? Think about this, really, really feel into this. What happens if we all become aware, and this is not even spiritual talk, guys, that we are part of reality, and that this is a two-way street, and that soul by soul, one soul at a time, we are changing the reality. So here are some good questions coming in. How do I think artificial intelligence will play into all of this? Of course, this is one of the first issues that we can think of, because this is the group of transhumanism. Okay, so how can through this investment in technology that is obviously trying to simulate, to emulate our consciousness, all right, how will this affect our lives? So I will tell you how this will affect our lives. We'll all buy into it. We'll all fall for it, because it's going to give us conveniences. It's going to give us, especially our children and grandchildren, the illusion of more safety, because this is what we are supposed to buy into. This is the ego zone, okay? The ego zone is, the more you buy into something that gives you a perceived sense of safety and security, the more you can be controlled. All right, so artificial intelligence will obviously be cool at first, and it will lead to all kinds of things that you've seen in some movies. Ready Player One, for instance, a really good movie for this. Like how the artificial intelligence is going to play a big role in augmented and also virtual reality. So AR and VR are the things that you need to look at here, because they're going to use artificial intelligence and quantum computing as the technological tool, all right, to present this to us. And we'll all feel, in different areas of our life, a benefit from this. We can do home study, we can do remote work, we can do remote health care, we can be at a party without being there and zooming around. The entertainment industry is going to change. All this is going to happen within the next 3 to 5 years, guys. All right, we're going to be able to watch movies and look around, look at different angles and so forth. It's going to create the illusion for us that we can see more, that we can better control our reality, not realizing that we are actually being presented with a sort of a predisposed experience. Because the fight that is going on here in the industry and the whole system is the fight over your attention, the fight over your consciousness, all right, because it's too powerful to be harnessed for us right now. So it needs to be, controlled and steered into something that will be called augmented reality. And augmented, you can hear this is an ego word. It means better, bigger, greater. Okay, so you're going to be steered into thinking and believing that the only way how you can improve your life or how you can improve your happiness and fulfillment is through this augmented reality. Forgetting, and this is the tricky part, that your reality, your authentic reality, takes place within you, within your experience. And this fight, this war that is going on there is a war of perception. All right, so you're going to perceive it that way, but without the needed tools to discern all this and to really feel this from within, we all gonna fall for it. So artificial intelligence is very scary, but understanding consciousness on a deeper level here than what science currently tries to make us believe, namely that consciousness is something that can be assimilated through computation. Artificial intelligence and this sort of merging of sentinel life, like what we are, a life, a beingness that contains a soul, and technology is not going to be possible. All right. So in the big, long future, I think that these things will play a role maybe in some of the practical aspects of our lives, but not really, in regards to what is truly defining us as human beings. This evolution of consciousness will lead on a long enough timeline to recognizing that these things are really all just entertainment, all right? But that entertainment is also something that literally on a neurotransmitter level conditions us to become unhappy, all right? And therefore, I'm not really concerned about it. I'm concerned about the transition, which is happening now within those next 3 to 5 and 10, 15 years. So our children and our grandchildren who will be fed with this message that this is what they need in order to grow, in order to develop, in order to experience things. So the thing that really concerns me is the low fertility rate of the new generations, and the fact that they are no longer actually seeking a physical experience and direct connection, all right, because this is literally what distances us from our humanness, from our human beingness, and our human consciousness. Letting go of the getting, yes. Yes, letting go of the getting and having and owning and needing is basically, this shift in awareness that we have to make as a first step, because it's coming from a place of lack, and a lack, that there is not enough, that there is a scarcity, that we are not good enough, that we are somehow insufficient or inadequate, is the message that you are being fed with. This is basically the outcropping here of our current collective unconscious. All right, so without pointing at certain forces or anything, it's really something that is showing us this shift that needs to happen in our global consciousness, namely that we are not individuals in the sense of, separated from the whole. We are all part of the whole. And then there is a sort of on this holographic level, there's a wholeness within ourselves that we need to seek. And the tricky part here, how it really messes with our mind and our awareness, is that we are being told we are not good enough, or what we have is not good enough, that we are being calibrated to a way of thinking that makes us believe we have to eradicate the flaws, we have to eradicate the bad, we have to remove darkness, we have to remove negativity. And this is really the part that concerns me as a mother, as an educator, and as a therapist, because the true truth, okay, I know sounds funny when you say this, but the truth that can be experienced here through your own authentic conscious experience, all right, is that there is plenty, and that we are all connected, and we have all parts of the whole in us. What we need to do is not to go against darkness or eradicate the bad or negativity. We need to learn how to mend, how to bring all this back together, how to integrate, how to collaborate, how to coexist, how to co-create, because those are the most fundamental laws of our consciousness. The laws that we are currently living in, the Newtonian universe, so to speak, that everything is basically matter, okay? And science has already acknowledged that this is only a very limited view. But this is what makes us think in terms of scarcity, in terms of lack. Because if you this is what you've been taught in school. If you have 10 ice cream cones and you take one away, then you only have 9. Well, in a quantum universe and understanding ourselves as a quantum cells, we realize that is actually not the case. So eradicating that which is flawed or that which is insufficient is the wrong way to go, guys. So this modern spirituality, or whatever you want to call this, awakening, and the tools that come with this, and I want to talk to you guys about these tools here next, what we can actually do to opt out, or to shift this understanding within ourselves. They have to steer us into mending, merging, unifying, and of course science has answered that call as well. So there are there's a strong momentum now in science to begin to understand the magnitude of something like the unified field theory, and understanding our life more in this quantum way, that or this holographic way, that everything is connected with another, and that the smallest piece contains the information of all, and that is actually not a matter of matter, but a matter of fields, a matter of arrays, a matter of greater connectivity. So for the conscious seeker here, this all leads to us understanding that the first impulse that we have when we try to awaken to something higher, it doesn't matter what you call this, in you, the higher consciousness, the higher self, the higher power, all right, what it actually is that you are receiving an impulse from this deeper awareness in you, from this sort of fractal, this holographic quantum piece in you, all right, that tells you, wait a minute, there is more. It's just somewhere completely else from where I thought it is. And so the shift that really has to happen here is from the outside in, okay, and then we realize that no matter how much we want to isolate ourselves or separate ourselves, we can't separate ourselves from others because we're all connected. The reason why I'm talking about this here right now is maybe because somebody else just talked about this or had a discussion about this. I don't know where these impulses come. I follow them, all right, because I recognize the beauty and I recognize the enormity of all of this, and so I let myself be guided through my own consciousness that gives me these impulses to illuminate certain aspects of that. Yes, in your experiences, IA, artificial intelligence, is also prone to human error and only as good as the paradigm it's developed within. Yes, absolutely. And, but the core of transhumanism is that until we get to this place that we realize that our consciousness is not something that can be emulated or augmented or manipulated in some ways. All right, a lot of different sort of outcroppings of that will be there. So we have to be mindful, we have to be soulful and aware with all these technological developments here. And we don't have to be against them. All right, it's part of our learning curve as humans. Okay, so we always it always works in sort of a pendulum. It goes a little too far out, when we break through something on the other end, and then we have to find this equilibrium within. Okay, so until that is there, we will experience the next 5 years will be this sort of total confusion about things, even in spirituality. So what are some of these tools that we already have, or that we might need to pay attention to, or that we want to learn in order to stay in our own identity and our own authenticity and our own reality, with our own perception, with our own consciousness, all right? And this is the part here, when you look at it as this, in this context, all right, why we all perceive this inner prompting or this calling to go deeper within and to really explore this huge array here of what consciousness actually is. So 20 years ago, consciousness was a poo-poo word, okay, because it was considered to be woo-woo and so forth. And I've mentioned this before. This has all changed now, and we all feel open to explore these kind of things, talking about energy, talking about consciousness. All that has never been easier today than it was. Okay, for someone like me, who could see this at a very early stage, but didn't actually know the steps how it's going to come about. And these tools are, something that you can observe in your own energetic sensitivity. So what is still sort of classified or categorized right now as energetic sensitivity is really nothing but your eighth sense. I mean, I don't know if it's really the eighth sense, but I want to separate this from the power of the mind, okay, and also the intuition, and that is a bullshit detector, a truth detector in you, okay, that can sense if something is actually life promoting, life expanding, and promoting, so to speak, the greater good for all. But because we have been conditioned with this improvement and scarcity, and that we have to be better, and that we are not good enough, and so forth, we cannot really see this larger context. So when it comes to predicting and forecasting things, the main thing that I'm seeing now, because there was many years where I doubted myself, where where I was confused myself, is through context. So it is the main tool here that we are receiving through our energetic sensitivity is that we become able to make out the greater context and let go of our fixation on form. Those are all sort of terms that come from dualism, to be fixated on the outcome, to be fixated on the external appearance of things, versus feeling within, experiencing yourself, and having your subjective awareness, or your subjective experience with what it is that you are experiencing, and give it a larger context. So the reason why my predictions 30 years ago were so far off is because I couldn't see the context. And I now see this larger context and realize that all my predictions from 30 years ago were totally accurate, but they were too early because I couldn't actually imagine these different steps that it would take here for us as a human global community, all right, to grow into this. And this is then what I've dedicated my work to lead people into these the discovery of their own inner consciousness, if you will, through various different ways, through learning how to communicate better, through learning how to love your body more, through learning how to connect better with yourself and others, through learning how to connect with nature, through learning, all these examples that we have in our world that actually contain this higher consciousness that we as individuals here embody, that we represent. The one thing that we haven't figured out yet, and this is why we're seeking, is that we actually came here to bring this into 3D. This is the whole point. The point is for us here as a living soul, all right, a multi-dimensional being that we all are, to convert this into a 3D reality. Not to change the 3D reality, but due to the virtue of us actually being here and representing higher consciousness, if you will, one soul at a time, we are changing, this 3D reality. We don't need to augment it or virtualize it. What we need to do is to actually live it. All right, and this, with the context of higher consciousness, then becomes a whole different ball game. All right, and this is why this is a little bit scary for the industries, because once you discover that, you are no longer susceptible to outer conditioning. All right, and obviously, consumerism and all the things that come with that, social media and so forth. So basically, what this whole sort of spiritual consciousness awakening, what all this is about, guys, is us invoking consciousness in us. And I'm using these words very carefully and on purpose, invoking, because it's already there. It is a process of claiming it, a process of inhabiting it, the process of experiencing it, and then having your own version of it based on understanding that this is your personal, authentic rendering of your higher power, of your higher consciousness. All right, so when I have discussions with people about religion, for instance, which they love to have these discussions with me, because I'm not actually promoting organized religions. And yet at the same time, a lot of the things that I say that and the terms that I use sound religious, because there is, of course, in all the different scriptures, different traditions and religions and spiritual teachings of the past, there is a lot of truth in them. But the one thing that we often forget when we look at these things that were delivered to us here through scripture or is the context of the time. And so we are in a time where spirituality, the paradigm of spirituality also changes because the context is different now. And so we have to reinvent all of this, not reinvent ourselves. We just have to claim ourselves. We just have to claim that we are basically our own avatars, but not in the sense of taking on a different identity or something that we think is better than who we are or augmented or improved. No, by letting go of all these conditionings, by all these things that we have been programmed with to believe that make us vulnerable, inadequate, not good enough, and so forth. So you understand here that this paradigm shift, if you look at this from the larger perspective and also the forecasting of how this is going to translate for us as a global community here, is in ways that we can no longer predict. All right. So prediction and forecasting is something completely different. The art of forecasting is determined by the calibration of the person that forecasts it. All right. And this is the part here that I just recently come to understand. Why some of my forecasts weren't as accurate as I would have liked them to be. And this is because I looked at it from an ego perspective. Oh, I want to be right. This is not what this is about. This is about understanding, that some of the things that to come, that they are beyond our own capacity of mind or capacity of understanding, and therefore we can't actually see how these things will come to play. And this is then where consciousness comes in. So if you want to understand yourself as a quantum self, as a quantum soul, all right, because those words actually do make sense, understanding the word quantum correctly, all right, you need to opt out of all these things that you are being spoon-fed with, what you need to have, what you need to seek, what you need to be, and especially the idea that negativity is something that you need to eradicate, that you need to fight against. Spiritual warriors, I was one of them. Okay, this is an oxymoron, because if you understand how consciousness and how creation works, you recognize that it's very, very simple. There's either light or truth or love, or there is none. Okay, and darkness is simply the absence of love, the absence of light, the absence of truth. So when it comes to discerning truth, I want you to look at things in the future from that perspective. Do not try to prove untruths. In fact, in spiritual science, we know that, the confrontation with untruth is part of our learning curve. That's how we get to our truth. All right? We're just being diverted away from it. So if you want to, become this aware or awakened soul self, quantum soul, where you recognize that there is a higher power or higher consciousness that is coming to an expression through you, you also need to let go of, judgments, and not just the ones towards yourself, but also other people. And you need to understand that we all carry this in us. All right, and the bifurcation here that I sometimes talk about, the bifurcation of reality, will happen in the way that you have one part of the population, that opts for the augmented and virtual reality, the way it's being produced from outside in, and the other part of the population that wakes up to an inner reality, all right, that is co-creative. In other words, that can create your own reality as you go. So this is then where conscious manifestation and stuff comes in. So basically, the difference between someone who just wants to, lean back and stay in comfort zone and do what they're being fed with, and conditioned with, or someone who realizes that the true power of our consciousness is in the co-creation of reality. So, who wants to opt for a spoon-fed reality if you can actually co-create and manifest your own reality? All right, but if you have not had that experience yourself yet, then you don't know that. And therefore, judgment and looking down at people, inferior, superiority, this whole spiritual bypassing, have you done ayahuasca yet? This is the last, sorry, I'm jumping a little bit here, but those are all things I've covered so many times that, I no longer want to go deeper into this. Here in context with our quantum future, okay, what we need to understand is that we are all connected, and we cannot arrive there by fighting against darkness, be it our own darkness or outer darkness. We can only get there through discovering and aligning ourselves to our inner light, to our inner love, and to our inner truth. So those are the tools that you need in order to awaken to your own quantum future, if you will, and you already have them in you. You just were never taught how to use them. Okay, so this is where some of the services come in that I offer, and I don't want to really talk about transcodes too much. You can all look this up. There's a lot of videos, a lot of publications and so forth out there. But I want to point at one specific thing here that is on my heart, and that is the verifying of all these things that people like me tell you, to actually experience them for yourself and to understand that authenticity is just sort of the beginning of you invoking your higher consciousness. Embodiment then means to actually live this, and this includes myself. We all need to relearn how to do this, all right? How to really be out there, okay, and know who you are, know why you came here for, know what makes you happy, know what you love, and do what you love, and have no shred of doubt or, confliction or inner combobulation with what it is that you are doing. This is what you are looking forward to, as an awakened, quantum soul. And you will then also begin to understand why helping others, sharing information, even, going live, if I could write an article, how this plays into this and why so many of us feel this need to help others. All right, because it's part of your quantum consciousness to do that. All right, guys, this was a lot of rambling here today, but we're literally trying to figure out a lingo of how to experience, how to teach, and how to understand all these things. And I've tried to introduce you just to a critical thinking here that might be able to help you to discern truth better and to understand that this higher consciousness that is working through you, that wants to be embodied through you. Thank you, Amanda. I really like this comment here. You are thanking me for teaching and training you so that you can do this for others. This almost makes me tear up, because this is really what this is all about. Thank you, guys. Wishing you a wonderful week and hope to see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.